If you are saying I disagree in your DSE speaking exam, you might be losing marks without even knowing it. I've been teaching DSE students for years, and I've noticed something interesting. Top scoring candidates rarely use that phrase. Instead, they use these 25 alternatives that sound more polite, more sophisticated, and score them higher marks. Hi everyone, this is Sarah from the Why Not Academy. Welcome back to my channel. One of you commented asking for this, so thank you for that suggestion. In my previous video, we covered 20 ways to say I agree, and you wanted to know the flip side. So today, I'm going to share exactly what top candidates say instead of I disagree. And by the end of this video, you know how to disagree like a level 5 candidate. Here's what I've noticed over the years teaching DSE students. Many of you actually avoid disagreeing during group discussions. You hear someone say something you don't agree with, but you stay quiet or just go along with it. As an Asian myself, I can fully appreciate that we're often taught that disagreeing is impolite or even confrontational. But here's the truth. In English-speaking cultures, disagreeing is completely normal and even encouraged, as long as you're polite and respectful. Disagreement actually makes discussions more interesting and shows critical thinking. Examiners want to see you challenge ideas respectfully. It demonstrates maturity and strong communication skills. So today I'm going to empower you to express your thoughts confidently. I'll teach you 25 phrases to disagree politely, organized into 5 categories: basic, intermediate, advanced, partial disagreement, and spontaneous phrases. I'll also share some important tips I wish all my students knew before they walked into the examination room. Let's contextualize this with 2024's DSE past paper. I'll use the homeschooling topic so you can see exactly when and how to use these phrases in real discussion. Let me show you the question first. The candidates will be discussing about the advantages of homeschooling, disadvantages of homeschooling, and whether or not they anticipate an increase in the popularity of homeschooling in Hong Kong. All right, now that we're clear about the topic, let's dive in. Let's say candidate A claims homeschooling is better because students can learn at their own pace without pressure from classmates. You disagree with this view. At a basic level, you could say, I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm not sure I agree with that. Students still need peer interaction to develop social skills. I see it differently. I see it differently. Learning with classmates actually motivates students to work harder. I don't think so. I don't think so. Most students actually thrive with some healthy competition. That's not how I see it. That's not how I see it. Isolation could harm their emotional development. I have a different view. I have a different view. Schools provide structure that many students need. Notice how these phrases soften the disagreement. We're not attacking the person or saying you're wrong. We're simply expressing a different perspective. This is the key. Let's recap these 5 basic phrases. I'm not sure I agree with that. I see it differently. I don't think so. That's not how I see it. I have a different view. Now, candidate B says parents can provide better education at home because they know their children best. I see your point, but most parents aren't trained educators and may lack expertise in certain subjects. That may be true, however, professional teachers have pedagogical training that makes a huge difference. I understand where you're coming from, but schools offer resources and facilities that homes cannot replicate. I'm afraid I can't agree with that. Children need exposure to diverse perspectives, not just their parents' views. I beg to differ. While parents know their children, they may not know how to teach complex subjects effectively. Let's recap these intermediate phrases. I see your point, but that may be true. However, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm afraid I can't agree with that. I beg to differ. Candidate C argues homeschooling will become more popular in Hong Kong because technology makes it easier. And of course, you disagree. At an advanced level, you can say, I'm inclined to disagree. I'm inclined to disagree. Hong Kong's education system is too exam-focused for homeschooling to gain widespread acceptance. I must respectfully disagree. I must respectfully disagree. Cultural values in Hong Kong still prioritize traditional schooling and credentials. With all due respect, I think most Hong Kong parents lack the time and resources for homeschooling. I see the merit in your argument, but the practical challenges in Hong Kong make it unlikely to become mainstream. I'd like to challenge that view. Technology alone cannot replace the comprehensive support schools provide. These advanced phrases demonstrate sophistication and diplomacy. They show you can disagree while maintaining a collaborative tone. This is what gets you to level 5 and above. Let's recap these advanced phrases. I'm inclined to disagree. I must respectfully disagree. With all due respect, I think I see the merit in your argument, but I'd like to challenge that view. Now, here's something really powerful. Sometimes you agree with part of someone's argument, but disagree with another part. This shows you're thinking critically and listening carefully. Candidate D says, homeschooling is ideal because it's flexible and personalized. Plus, it eliminates bullying. You partly agree and partly disagree. You can say, you make a valid point about, but I'm not convinced that. You make a valid point about flexibility, but I'm not convinced that eliminating school entirely is the solution to bullying. I agree with you up to a point, but... Personalization is valuable, but students still need structured socialization. That's partially true. However, homeschooling does offer flexibility. However, it may create new problems like limited career opportunities later. You're right about the personalized learning pace, though I question whether all parents have the capability to deliver quality education. I'm with you on the bullying issue. But on the other hand, schools can implement anti-bullying programs rather than avoiding school altogether. Partial disagreement is a game changer because it shows nuanced thinking. You're not just saying yes or no. You're analyzing different aspects of the argument. Examiners love this. Now let's recap these partial disagreement phrases. You make a valid point about, but I'm not convinced that. I agree with you up to a point, but that's partially true. However, you're right about, though I question whether. I'm with you on, but on the other hand. Finally, let's add some authentic, natural phrases to keep the discussion lively and conversational. I hear what you're saying, but have you considered the certification issues with homeschooling in Hong Kong? That's an interesting perspective, though I wonder if homeschooled students would face disadvantages when applying to universities. I'm not entirely sure about that. What about students who need the social structure that schools provide? That's one way to look at it, but That's one way to look at it. But we should also consider the quality control issues with homeschooling. I can see why you would think that. However, not every family has the resources or time to commit to homeschooling properly. These spontaneous phrases sound natural and show you're genuinely engaged in the discussion. You're not just reciting memorized scripts, you're having a real conversation. Let's recap these spontaneous phrases. I hear what you're saying, but that's an interesting perspective, though I wonder if... I'm not entirely sure about that. That's one way to look at it, but I can see why you would think that. However, okay, here's something I need to address because I hear this all the time in practice sessions, and it really affects scores. Some students directly translate from Chinese, and they end up saying things that sound way too blunt or even rude in English. Over the years, I've heard phrases like these being used, and honestly, they shouldn't be. Don't say, "You're wrong." This sounds like an attack. Don't say, "That's not true." It sounds too confrontational. That doesn't make sense. Quite dismissive of other people's ideas. That's a bad idea. Judgmental. No. Sounds argumentative, doesn't it? I totally disagree. Well, the word totally makes it too strong. I understand why this happens. In Chinese, we can be more direct, and it doesn't sound rude. But in English, these phrases come across as confrontational, even if you don't mean them that way. Here's what you need to remember. English values indirectness and politeness when disagreeing. It's not about being fake or overly polite. It's about showing respect for different opinions while still expressing your own thoughts clearly. So please avoid these phrases. Use the alternatives I've taught you instead. Your communicative strategy score will thank you for it. Now, before we move on, I need to give you an important reminder that I wish I could tell every student before their exam. Just because I've told you that examiners appreciate disagreement and that it can help you reach level 5, please don't start disagreeing just for the sake of disagreeing. Here's what I've actually observed in practice sessions. Some students will say, "I agree," but then their elaboration shows they actually disagree. This confusion actually hurts your score because it shows unclear thinking and poor communication. If you disagree, just say you disagree, politely, of course, using the phrases I've taught you. On the flip side, I've also seen students who disagree but then stop right there without any explanations. Just saying, "I don't think so, nothing else," doesn't show critical thinking. It just sounds dismissive. Here's the key. Disagree when you truly believe there's another perspective worth considering. And most importantly, always back it up with solid reasoning and examples. Examiners can tell the difference between authentic critical thinking and students who are just trying to avoid conflict. So be purposeful, be genuine, be clear about whether you agree or disagree. Your authenticity and clarity will shine through, and that's what truly impresses examiners. All right, before we wrap up, I want to share some practical tips that go beyond just memorizing phrases. Because here's the thing, disagreeing politely isn't only about the words you choose. It's about how you deliver them. Tip number 1, your tone of voice matters. Keep your tone calm, friendly, and respectful. Don't sound angry, frustrated, or dismissive. A slight smile when you disagree can actually soften your message. Your voice should say, "I respect your view, but here's mine," not "you're totally wrong." Tip number 2, pay attention to your body language. Maintain eye contact, but don't stare. That feels aggressive. Nod when the other person is speaking to show you're listening. Keep an open posture. Don't cross your arms. That looks defensive. Lean in slightly to show engagement and interest. Tip number 3, Use the acknowledge, disagree, provide structure. First, acknowledge their point. I see what you mean. Then, disagree politely. But I'm not entirely convinced because... Finally, provide your alternative view. Perhaps we should also consider this sandwich technique makes your disagreement feel constructive, not combative. Tip number 4, always back up your disagreement with reason. Never just disagree and stop there. Always explain why you disagree. Provide examples, evidence, or logical reasoning. This shows critical thinking and keeps the discussion productive. Tip number 5, invite further discussion. After disagreeing, ask a question to keep the conversation going. Try, what do you think about, or have you considered, or how would you address? This shows you want to collaborate and explore ideas together, not just win an argument. It keeps the group interaction alive and flowing, exactly what examiners want to see. So there you have it. You've just learned 25 phrases to disagree politely and effectively. Plus, now you understand why certain direct phrases should be avoided in English. The crucial role of tone and body language. How to structure your disagreement respectfully. Ways to keep the discussion collaborative and flowing. The importance of being purposeful. Disagree when you genuinely have a point to disagree, not just for the sake of it. Now, here's my final message to you. Don't be afraid to disagree in your DSC speaking exam. Your opinions matter. Your perspective adds value to the discussion as long as you're polite, respectful, and of course, constructive. Disagreeing will actually help you score, not hurt it. The key is to sound natural, respectful, and thoughtful. Practice these phrases until they flow smoothly from your mouth. Listen carefully to what others say. Think critically about it and respond with confidence when you genuinely have something to contribute. When you master the art of polite disagreement, you're not just preparing for an exam. You're developing a life skill that will serve you well in university, in your career, and in all your future conversations. All right, that's it for today. I really hope this video has empowered you to express your thoughts more confidently. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more content like this. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss future lessons. Let me know in the comments which phrases resonate with you most, or if there's any other speaking topic you'd like me to cover. I read all your comments, and your suggestions help shape future videos. Until then, I wish you all the best in your DSC preparation. Remember, your voice matters, and you have every right to share your perspective politely and proudly. I'll see you again in another lesson. Take care and bye for now.